what, if any, policy can be put in place to ensure that children are that little bit safer? We can't cure humanity, but we can potentially hope that we put some barriers in place, whether it's technology or indeed just policy more broadly.
Yeah, absolutely. I think we're at a point, as everyone has said so far, where we are happy that these hearings are happening because the public needs to see it, but we're also at the point in our democratic process where it's time to push forward change. And some of the things that we look for in bills, specifically around kid safety, are three main pillars. We want a duty of care, which essentially means just like a doctor has a fiduciary responsibility to ensure that patients are treated in their best interest, we want platforms to ensure that kids are not harmed on their platforms. We want privacy by default. This means if a kid goes onto Instagram, the moment they sign up, they have all of their settings at the highest level of privacy. It means that they won't get messages from people that they're not friends with. Their profiles won't be able to be seen by extra people. And we want safety by design. We want no more addictive features that are known to be harmful to kids that platforms continue to utilize because it keeps them on longer.
And going back to that privacy focus, now, some companies, I think of one in France, Humane, that came onto the show last week, saying how ultimately you can use technology as a force for good here. You can have some sort of ability to really age appropriately who really is part of using that system. But then privacy comes into it. How do you allow the camera to identify whether a child is indeed the age they say they are without in some way impacting their own privacy? How do you see technology being the solve here?
Yeah, I think that that's a great point, but part of what's missing is that these companies already have age estimation tools that they use to know the age of their users. I mean, one thing that came out of the AG lawsuit that's happening across 41 states is the fact that Meta knows that it has millions of users under the age of 13 on its platform, and it's keeping that knowledge from the public. So they know this, and they use their estimation tools to actually target against these kids and to target advertising to age ranges. So we actually don't need new technology. Companies already have this information. We just need them to enforce it.
Camille, I still go back to the idea that when this Senate hearing is finished, what comes out of it? Because many of the social media companies have codified policy, right? So if you take TikTok as an example, they have restrictions on age. I think 13 is the barrier to using TikTok. And those are policies. The question seems to be on enforcement. And as Caroline rightly points out, either a lack of or use of technology to enforce those policies. And I just wonder what your perspective is on policy versus action.
Yeah, I think the fundamental difference that we're talking about, though, is self-regulation policy by these platforms, which is where we're at right now, as opposed to regulation that's codified in law. So these platforms at any moment can change their terms and conditions. And what we're seeing right now is that they release features that folks have been asking for years ahead of a big PR moment. And that's great. We want these better features, but releasing these features because of a PR moment is no substitute for regulation that incentivizes safe innovation and age-appropriate strategies from the beginning.
Camille, Pinterest's CEO, Bill Ready, has an op-ed in The Hill this morning likening the social media industry to big tobacco. That is something I've heard before. Why do you think social media companies would do something like that? Are they trying to get in the psyche of lawmakers and show that they're on the same wavelength or something like that?
Well, I think every social media company and the ways in which they utilize their products are different. Pinterest has a different business model and a different position than other social media companies. We've seen that with Snap coming out and endorsing the Kids Online Safety Act, now with X coming out and endorsing CSAM. They're all taking slightly different positions, but I think the main takeaway here is that we're starting to see them come to the table. There's overwhelming support by parents, by AGs. I mean, schools are suing these platforms. And I think that they're realizing that the time is up of this move fast and break things mentality, and we need to come to the table and figure out exactly what a path forward looks like, and that path does require regulation in the same way that we had to have with tobacco.